Hi, everyone. Billy Greco, president of the East Coast Music Hall of Fame. Tonight, we come together to honor and memorialize a dear friend, Bobby Rydell. As we all know, we lost Bobby April 5th. Bobby was an icon in our industry with fans all over the world. In 2019, the East Coast Music Hall of Fame honored Bobby with its Lifetime Achievement Award. Bobby was extremely appreciative of this award. Bobby also performed that night. He was as good in 2019 as he was 30 years ago. His voice, his laughter, his sense of humor was unmatched. And in his typical Italian way, as he left the stage, he would say, Buona salute e grazie. For most of us know that Bobby, the Philadelphia kid, was Italian. So tonight we're here to honor and memorialize our dear friend. Joe Marioni, the producer of our gala, will be
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
joining us shortly. And Joe will be moderating this event tonight.
Bill, thanks so much. I know that you're traveling, and it was really beautiful of you to make time to do this and help put this together. And thanks for asking me to moderate it. As Bill said, my name is Joe Marioni. I'm the producer of the East Coast Music Hall of Fame Gala. I produced the 2019 event, and I'll be producing the 2022 event in June. And Bobby's passing, as Bill mentioned, is a reminder to us of why it's so important to honor our East Coast music heroes while they're still here. We're going to do some wonderful things this year to honor some of the folks that have left us, people like Earl Speedo Carroll and people like the Five Keys and so on. And there are so many of those people who we love who are no longer with us. But the idea of bringing people together while they're still here and giving them their flowers while they're still here on this planet is really, really important to us. And without any further ado, I'd like to start bringing on some of Bobby's dearest friends and colleagues, people that know Bobby much, much longer than I do and have so many great stories. I'll try to pepper in some of my own as we go, because I think I've got a couple of good ones that could be told. But we're going to start off with a gentleman that I had the pleasure of sharing the screen with. What seems like just a few months ago, we did a virtual roundtable with Bobby and this gentleman, and he's been one of Bobby's closest friends for many, many years. I know it may be a little tough for him to get through some of this, as it will be for some of us, because he's a mushpot like me and like so many of us that have our heart and soul about this music. But I'd like to introduce you right now to Tony Orlando. Tony was once again one of Bobby's dearest friends. And Tony, I know you're up in Canada right now. Thank you so much for making the time to come on screen and share some memories with us.
You know, I just got off stage and I was thinking about Bobby. I'm here at the Niagara Falls Casino here. And I got to tell you, we've all lost some great people. B.J. Thomas, oh my God, it just goes on and on. Of course, Ronnie, you know, and then Bobby. Bobby, how do you explain Bobby? You know, he's a tower of strength. But yet a softie. He's a Mr. Softie, you know, like the Mr. Softie ice cream, you know. At the same time, he took no bullshit. He was real. He told the truth. If he didn't like something, you'd know it.
Yeah.
If he didn't like something, you'd know it. Right? Joe,
Yeah.
I mean, Joe, he was what most show business is not about.
Right.
He wasn't about fame. He was about singing. He wasn't about celebrity. He was about Philadelphia and Wildwood.
Yeah.
And he stayed that way right to his very last breath.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke to his wife, and Linda told me she was kind of crying by his bedside. And he said, "What are you crying about?" Now, typically, Bobby, well, what's the matter with you? So I'm sick. You know, he had a way of eliminating fear and worry and pain. And he lived his life to the fullest. You know, a lot of people used to say, I used to hear them say, "Bobby, they took a liver, they took a kidney, and you still smoke it. He says, yeah, and I'm still living. And that was Bobby's way. Bobby was fearless. And
Yeah.
his whole objective was to entertain people, make them happy, not for fame and fortune, but for the act of going out there and making someone smile. Really.
It meant a lot to him. I know he felt like he was carrying the torch from people like Frank Sinatra, who the show was paramount. The show was everything. It was all about the audience and delivering. And I know that you feel that you carry that torch from people like Bobby Darin and so on, of how important it is that those people have saved up to buy that ticket, perhaps traveled a long distance to come to the show.
Yeah.
So you must feel that you and Bobby were part of a bygone era in terms of the way that the music is timeless, of course, but the way that you deliver that show is something very, very unique, I believe.
One day, Joe, I was at a meet and greet. This is like, I'm not kidding, maybe 40 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And a man walked up to me after the show and he said, Tony, it was at my variety show. So it's like, I would say 1973 or 4 or 74.
Right.
That's like 47 years ago.
Yeah.
Candida's 50 years ago. Halfway to Paradise, my first rate is 62 years ago.
There are people watching that are shivering as you're saying those numbers.
But I'm proud of it because if you can last in this business 61 days, you're doing something.
And people still ask for Halfway to Paradise and bless you.
I know.
I'm one of those guys that still bust your shoes about those.
You are one of those guys, you're right.
I am.
But this guy walks up to me, Joe, and I shared this story with Bobby, by the way. That's one of the reasons why I'm picking up the story. And Bobby and I, not long ago, when we were in town in Wildwood having dinner that night.
Yeah.
And it was for him and me and Johnny Patillo, who he loved, by the way.
Right.
And I love. And he said, don't you just love to make people smile, Tony? This is Bobby talking to me. Yeah. I said, Bobby, I had a guy walk up to me, 1974, and he says, I have 4-stage cancer. And he said, I just want you to know that if God takes me home, this show that I just saw made me the happiest man on the planet.
Oh, man.
I never, ever, ever forgot that guy because this was my discussion with Bobby. And Bobby says to me, and there's one of those in every audience.
Oh, yeah. At least
He
one.
said that to me. And I said, absolutely. So we have to go out, us old school guys, to make sure that one person out in that audience is going home saying those words. I might be going home to heaven. But I can tell you right now, I had more fun in that show than I've ever had in my life, or I enjoyed that performer. It is our responsibility to think that way. It really is.
And Bobby definitely got that.
That's the day I'm talking about right there, Joe. You're showing it. Yeah.
There it is. Thanks for putting that up, Anthony. Yeah, that is beautiful. And we hope to make more memories like that on June 7th. I hope everybody who's with us in Atlantic City is with us for another 30, 40, 50 years. But the fact of the matter is, as well as I, tomorrow's promised to no one. We've got to live while we can. We've got to come together. We've got to make those memories. It's so important. And I want to thank
people like you
this time.
You're always complimenting us. People like you who continue sharing your screen, your show, your productions throughout your lifetime. You have put all of us in a place that we dreamed about out there. Those were our dreams as kids, and you continue to do that.
Thank you.
I want to thank you. Just look what you're doing right now for Bobby. This is you doing this for Bobby, really.
Thank you, Tony. I know you made Jay Siegel's night and made his dream come true when you came and talked so glowingly about him and his role in your career back in June of 2019. And he's going to get to return the favor in June of 2022, just a couple of months. So that's really what it's all about. And I know that night meant so much to Bobby. I get choked up now when I look at that picture, of course. I can't wait to give you a big hug.
Thank you. Same here. Thank you for having me.
Tony, thanks for being on with us tonight. I really appreciate it. Love you. Love you mucho. Get home safe from Canada. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, another gentleman who is an East Coast music icon and so important to us. He'll be honored at our ceremony in June as well. A lifelong friend of Bobby's who introduced Bobby on stage many, many times. Cousin Brucey is with us. Bruce, are you there? We'd love to have you come on screen.
I'm here. I'm holding. I have bad audio, so I have my Bluetooth speaker up. So it looks like I'm on the latest telephonic thing. Hello, hiya, Joe. How are you?
Tell me your memories of Bobby Rydell.
Oh, listen, first of all, it was so nice seeing my colleague Tony. We're colleagues now. It's not nice, and I introduced him on the stage. Well, Bobby, I've introduced on the stage many times when he was young. One of my very first things that I think about. Well, first of all, let me just say this man is the sweetest, nicest, most humble guy that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And Bobby is sincere and honest, and what a great talent. I remember him at Palisades Park when we celebrated his 18th birthday with a surprise cake.
Oh, wow.
And on the stage, and there's great pictures of that. I wish I was prepared because I have that photograph. It's in my book, matter of fact, one of my books. And Bobby was up there with a bunch of his young ladies, kids that were just going nuts. But let me just tell you a quick story about Bobby, because it just happened, maybe a year ago at PNC, the Art Center. Ron Gavino comes over to me about 15 minutes. Bobby was co-headlining the show that night. And just so exactly demonstrate what kind of man he was. And 15 minutes before showtime, he was at a motel near the theater, and he was going to be limoed over to the stage and right onto the stage, and I was going to hug him and kiss him and bring him on. He got very sick. I mean, he got so sick that 15 minutes before showtime, and this has never happened in his career, he had to pull out of the show. Now, of course, I don't have to tell you, you are a producer. You know what that means. I panicked. I thought, what was I going to do? I didn't know what the heck to do. I went on the stage and I had to tell these people, these thousands of people in the audience, PNC, that Bobby's not going to be here. And they came, a lot of many, many miles, hundreds of miles to see this great star, this person they love so much. Bobby was very sick. So I panicked and I said, well, let me get him on the phone. I was going to take a shot. What was I going to do? So I get with all this new technology, I get my cell phone. And I called him at the motel. I said, Bobby, what's going on? He says, Bruce, he was really very sick. As you know, Bobby has had a lot of situations, problems over the past many years. We all knew that. But the audience really didn't. He never gave that to the audience. Right. But boy, you ask him about it on the air, he'd be so honest. I mean, a double transplant recipient. I mean, and he would talk about it. So he gets on the telephone with me, and I said, Bobby, I know you're sick, but what do you think? Let me talk to the people. Well, I put my cell phone up to the microphone. It was very simple. I didn't know what to do. And Bobby talked to the audience and talked to me, and it was live, and the audience just melted, and they understood exactly what was going to happen. That's the kind of professional this guy was, and he was sick. He was really sick that night. He and I talked about it not so long ago on the air about what happened that night. But he was a professional. He loved that audience. That audience, I'll tell you, that was his love. And nothing would stop him. So even on his sickbed, he got on. He didn't do a performance, but he talked to those people, and he explained what was wrong with him. And the people melted, applauded, and everybody went home happy. Bobby was not happy. He was pretty sick that night. But that's how I always remember Bobby, his professionalism, his warmth, his sincerity. And you know the most important thing, Joe? He was the most honest guy. He had honesty. He cared. That's how I remember Bobby Rydell, and one of a kind, a friend, and I'm very sad about losing him. Really, very sad.
I thank you so much for coming on and sharing that. I think you summed it up really well. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And we can't wait to see you again in person.
Thank you very much. You're always a pleasure. And to the audience out there, we'll always remember Bobby. We'll always remember Bobby. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks for everything you do every week on the air, Bruce. Thank you. Thanks so much. And we got a chance to do a couple of shows here in Florida, in Claremont, just outside of Orlando. If you were there last March, you saw the gentleman that I'm about to bring to the screen. When Bobby Rydell walked in, he would usually come right about the time of the intermission to backstage, and he'd get settled in the dressing room, get ready to go on. And the first thing out of his mouth was, "Where's Joey D?" Because Joey D was on in the first half of the show, and he wanted to know where's Joey, because he wanted to give him a big hug and a kiss. And so Bobby absolutely loved this guy, loved Joey D very, very much. And I'm so pleased to bring him to the screen. Joey, thanks for being with us.
Well, it's my pleasure breaking my heart with those great words that you tell me. I know Bobby from when I had a band in New Jersey before the Peppermint Twist. In 1960, we backed him up at a place called the Irvington House.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Bobby, I want to have a hit record one day." He said, "Joey, you and your band are great. You work hard at it and you're going to make it." And I can tell you, every show that I've done with Bobby since, hundreds of shows, Bobby was always the class act, no matter who was on the show. I don't care who was on. Bobby stood out as the class act performer. Okay. And he also never left the crowd wanting. The crowd, he was a crowd pleaser. He loved his audience. He loved doing what he was doing. One time we did the Steel Pier in Atlantic City, 1962. I had my first hit record, Peppermint Twist. And he and I are standing out in front, waiting to go out there. We broke all records. It was a Dick Clark show. We had Jerry Lee Lewis. We had the Dovells, the Shirelles, Larry Chance, Jay Siegel. You name it. Was a who's who of rock and roll in 1962. And he said, "Joey, can you believe it? We're breaking every record that they ever had here at the Steel Pier. Isn't that wonderful?" And he gave me a big hug and a kiss. And that's right, we're Italians. We kiss each other. And
Absolutely.
I love the guy from my heart. He's just so special. I knew him at the inception of his career, the genesis of well, he did it all. Bye Bye Birdie. It's a legend. It'll never be forgotten.
Yeah.
He had all the hit records. He's known around the world. He's not just a U.S. star. He's a worldwide star. But he never brought that to your attention. He was a humble guy.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of shows with Cousin Brucey up in the Catskills. And our shows would end around 11 p.m. Well, we'd stay up till 4 or 5 p.m. drinking coffee, and Bobby drank everything that was in the bar and have a pack of cigarettes while we're talking with Shecky Green, Larry Chance, Cousin Brucey, Shirley from the Shirelles, myself. We had conversations here that it's a shame they didn't have cell phones back then to video some of this great conversation that was being held. But Bobby Rydell, I knew his wife Bill. She died the same week my wife Lois passed away the same week. So we consoled each other over the phone tonight because he was going through a hell of a tough time, as was I. And Bobby's mother used to say to me, "Joey, you got to keep calling Bobby because he's forward to it, and you uplift him so much that you got to keep this going." And I promised her I would, and I did that for about 3 months. And then of course the calls became weekly calls and monthly, and then but we did so many shows together and shows with you, Joe. I call you Joseph because you and I, March 19th is St. Joseph's Day, so we celebrate together. But Bobby's one of a kind. He's a rara avis, which means one of a kind, and that's what he was. So special. Bobby, I love you. My heart is broken. I can't go on.
It's tough to imagine not having him around. It's tough to imagine he won't be with us in June. It's tough to imagine we won't have those.
I can't pick up the phone and call him because I could call him 2 o'clock in the morning. He'd answer me. We talked for a couple hours. I mean,
And he
the
loved
guy was
to
just incredible.
He loved to text. I've scrolled at least 2 or 3 times now since he passed. I scrolled through those text messages. There's such funny stuff in there. There are voice memos. There are things that he loved Bill Hader, the comedian. He would send me clips of things, and he loved to laugh, and he loved a good time. And we would just, those of us that got to be in his orbit were really, really blessed, to kind of get to be a part of that.
Just like Tony said and cousin Brucey said, he was a 2-time transplant recipient, and he'd smoke and drink. And I say, Bobby, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
You're not helping yourself by doing this. He said, Joey, remember this. I'm doing it my way. He says, I came in my way and I'm going out my way. I like to smoke, I like to drink, and I like to be with people that I love.
Yeah.
He said it in the capsule. It's like Sinatra said, I did it my way. Well, Bobby Rydell, you did it your way, Pally.
Yeah. I think you summed it up really well, Joey. I thank you so much for being on the screen with us tonight and being a part of this. Thank you very, very much. I know Bobby is smiling down.
Joseph, I'll tell you, I'm crying right now.
Bobby is smiling down at you. He'll be watching your next show, I know, and he'll be beaming. Joey, thanks a million for coming on screen with us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
Okay, Pally.
Okay, thank you. During Bobby's show, if you ever saw Bobby's show, he would have a segment of the show where he would turn the audience's attention over to a movie screen, and he would play something that he was very, very proud of, that he wasn't part of, but was very, very special to him because it was his portrayal in the movie Green Book. And we worked tirelessly to get the gentleman I'm about to introduce you to the 2019 East Coast Music Hall of Fame. But even though he wasn't there that night, Bobby knew he wanted to be, and Bobby had a great relationship with him. And much like Bobby did with a lot of young singers, he cheered him on every chance he got. And that young man was a part of every show that Bobby did for the last several years. He played Bobby Rydell in the movie Green Book. He's seen in a scene that's supposed to be the Copacabana. Bobby singing Old Black Magic. And I'm so pleased that he's taken a few minutes out of his busy schedule to jump on with us tonight and share some Bobby Rydell stories. Von Lewis is here with us. Von, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Joe, thank you. Thank you so much for including me in tonight. I'm so glad that I got your message. Thank you.
My pleasure. Tell me what you remember most about Bobby, or, give us something to put a smile on our face as we remember this great guy.
God, Bobby was everybody's buddy, and he signed a lot of his autographs that way. He said, "Your buddy, Bobby." And that's exactly who he was. And from the moment I first met him, that's just how we behaved together. I mean, we were cracking jokes, hanging out in his dressing room while he was smoking a cigarette. And it was just a wonderful time. He was such a great guy, a special soul, an encouraging soul, always communicated with me and would send me encouraging words. And I'd update him on my little family. It was about the time that I met him. My wife was pregnant with our first child, Grady, who's now 2.5. And I would share I made a little gif of me as Bobby in the Copacabana like this with my arms up saying, when that baby is born. And I sent him that text and he just loved it and talked about it a lot. And every Christmas I'd call him or send him a text. And, it's the news this week hit me a lot harder. I know a lot of people who are on the show knew Bobby a lot longer than I have. But Bobby came into my life in such a special time, in such a special project, in a special way. And he's such a special guy that he's very near and dear and close to my heart. And Linda is too. And Linda, if you're watching, my condolences. I'm so sorry. If there's anything I can do, please let me know.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on and being a part of this and sharing your memories of Bobby. He was so proud of your portrayal in that movie. And I think, I know you got to see him in concert after you did it. So you probably know you were an important part of every concert he did. You'd be right there on the screen next to him.
Yeah, I was always very appreciative when he'd comment on my hair. Although I didn't quite get it as tall as he would have liked it to have been in the movie. That's another story for another day. But He said, "You sang good, kid, but your hair could have been taller."
That's great. That is great.
Yeah.
And leave it to him to find something funny to say about pretty much almost anything.
That's right. That's right.
It's very cool. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And now every time we see the opening of that movie, Green Book, everybody watching will know what an important part of Bobby's life you were. And there's one of those great pictures from the movie.
That's right.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful.
Thank you.
The hair definitely could have been taller, huh?
It could have, yeah. I grew it out. I grew it out especially for that part, but it got accidentally got cut a little too short, I think, and couldn't get the height. But that's that's okay. It happens. And I'm just very grateful for Nick Vallelonga for putting Bobby's song in the movie, and having me a part of it, because if it wasn't for Nick, I wouldn't know Bobby, and I'm very grateful to know both those guys, especially Bobby. Love you, Bobby. Thinking about you all the time.
Vaughn, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Hope to see you again soon. Good luck with your career.
Thank you.
That was great. Now you get to put a face beyond the face in the movie with Vaughn. He definitely was great in the movie. We've got so many people tuned in. There's over there's a couple of hundred watching right now. Vaughn mentioned he sent a message out to Linda. Linda is not quite ready to be a part of things like this just yet, Bobby's wife, but I told her that we'd keep this in a safe place and make sure that she was able to see it as soon as she's ready and as soon as she's able. And I know it's going to be a real special keepsake for her to see all of Bobby's friends here together. And speaking of friends, I want to bring on another gentleman that goes back to the 1950s with Bobby. He had his biggest hit in 1950. It's funny. I'm drawing a blank. I don't know if it was 58 or 59, but he'll tell me in a minute. He told me to keep going until he does the 100th anniversary of his big hit record. And I'm talking about the Elegance original lead singer, of course, Vito Picone. Vito goes back many, many years with Bobby. And I know was heartbroken like we all were to hear of Bobby's passing. And let's see. Vito, see if you can unmute your microphone. I don't know if you could find a button to do that. Then we could hear you as well as see you, and that'll be even better. So find the button to unmute, and we'll bring you on. There we go.
What was that?
Thank you.
I told you I had to go to college for this thing.
I appreciate it. I'm glad you got set up. Thanks a million.
Oh my God.
Thanks for coming on. When I talked to you this afternoon, I said I want you to do what you do best, which is tell stories. This is a great opportunity for you to share some of your great memories of our friend Bobby.
Well, there's plenty of stories, but there's not many I can tell on the air. Bobby and I had a lot of laughs together, and the one thing about the both of us, and with the Italian heritage in the background, he spoke Italian too, and I don't think we said 3 words together in English when we would be together, no matter how long we were together. We always spoke Italian. And the ironic part about this whole horrible story is that I was talking to Joey M over at the restaurant in Wildwood, La Cucina, and as we were talking, Bobby's name came up, and I just started to say something about Bobby, and the radio plays. Bobby's song comes on the radio. Joey says, "I can't believe this. We're talking about Bobby, and the song starts to play on the radio."
Right.
I said, "Wow." I said, "It's a coincidence." He's listening in. I said, "Anyway," and we hung up. He calls me back 2 seconds later. He says, "I just got a call." He said, "Bobby passed away." Now, this, I guess, was his way of saying goodbye to me. It was like the eeriest feeling I have ever had in my life. Bobby, one of the funniest stories, well, one of the funniest lines, I should say. We did the memorial for the Buddy Holly Bopper and the and Richie Valens tribute in Clear Lake, Iowa. And while we were doing it, it was about 17 below zero. He come in, he had a Philadelphia Eagles hood on. He was all covered up, and he said to me at the time, "Maron, if I know God said every," he said, "It's cold in here." So I said, "Yeah." So while we're talking, this gentleman comes up, and I had just did something the day before. It was a 2-day event. I did something the day before. We were selling our CDs. This woman come up. She bought 2 CDs, and she went to go for her money. She had no money in her wallet. She forgot her money. So she, oh my God, I feel so embarrassed. I'll bring the money tomorrow. No. Take the CDs. Just enjoy. Use them for coasters, whatever you want to do with them. But thank you. You don't have to pay for it. Next day, this guy comes, big guy, and he said, I want to talk to you about my wife. I said, oh my God, I was only here 2 days. I couldn't have gotten that much in trouble. So he said, you gave her 2 CDs. You didn't take no money. I said, oh, I remember that. He said, well, I want to pay for the 2 and I want to buy 5 more. And I brought you a gift. I said, well, I don't want no gifts, and you don't have to buy 5 more. No. He said, I have it outside in the truck. Well, I mean, I wouldn't care if it was gold bullion. I wasn't going outside at 17 below for any reason. Right. So he said, just come on. No. I said, you know what? If you don't mind, drive it around to the stage, and I'll be by the stage entrance. And I appreciate it, but you don't have, no, I want to do it. He brings me a box. I don't know if I could show it. Like this big. And what he did, he had a farm or whatever he had, a cattle ranch, but he butchered a steer that night, and they put in filet mignon. He wrapped each one, a hamburger, chopped meat, the rib steaks, rib eyes, and he made a whole box for me to take back to New York. I mean, how I was going to do it, I don't know, but he gives me this whole box, and I put it outside in the snow. I buried it under the snow for a while. I don't know what to do with it. So I wind up telling Bobby, I said, Bobby, you're not going to believe this. The guy just bought all this meat and everything. He said, what? He said, there any brush hole in there? He says, I said, no, it wasn't an Italian steer. I don't know what it was, but he wanted to know if it had brush hole in there.
That's great.
I had spoken to him not too long ago, and we were talking about when he got back on his feet. And he got back on his feet. He said we were supposed to go to dinner at a restaurant in Philly. When I did the movie, The Irishman, I did the scene in The Irishman, Martin Scorsese's movie. I was the manager of this wise guy's, hang on in this restaurant called, it was the Villa de Roma, and it's in Philly. And the owners of the place, they run in the place. It's identical to the set that we had shot the scene in. Wow. So we were going to go to dinner there, and Bobby and I and a couple of friends, we were going to meet there, and then the owner had invited us, and I was looking forward to that. And then unfortunately he got sick again, and he's had a rough time, But there's like I said, there's 1,000 stories. He had when Dick Fox had the Golden Boys running around, Fabian couldn't make one, and Dick called me up. He said, "Can you think of a replacement, for Fabian for such and such?" I said, "Perfect." At that time, I was doing things with Freddie Cannon, and I suggested Freddie, and they put Freddie in, and that was like a one-night performance. Bobby said to me, "Listen, if you're going to suggest anybody else to Bob, to Dick, don't give me such a high-energy guy. You know what I mean? This guy's got nothing but high-energy songs." He says, "We don't want I want to be nice and cool. Somebody like Julio Iglesias," he said. Oh God, that's great. He's going to be missed. He's really going to be missed. I mean, you know what he was? He was a full-time professional entertainer. Yes. / street guy. He never left the neighborhood. He was always Bobby. And that's what I loved about him. That was the best part about it. We were always it was always just like we were just hanging out in the neighborhood, Not that I was not from Philly. I was from Staten Island, of course. But but the thing is that's the way he was, and that's what you got when you met him. He was just an unbelievable person, talented, one of the best singers. And I said this since the first day I heard him. He's definitely one of the best, if not the best, purist, I should say, because everybody had their own style and everybody was different in their own way. But he was the purest singer to come from our era. And I honestly, I believe that till the day I die. I believe that. A technically great singer with a great voice, and really, really knew how to deliver it when he was on stage. Yeah. Even if he was sitting on his stool. Hey, I want to take
how to deliver the goods.
Yeah, I want to take a shot at Joey D for a second. Joe, I've been teasing Joey since he was a fetus. But my middle name is Joseph. I was born at midnight, St. Joseph's Day, and a little after midnight. If I had been born a couple of minutes later, my name would have been Joseph Vito. But it's Vito Joseph. That's my middle name. And it's not March 10th, Joey. You said March 10th, you and Joey. 19th. It's March 19th. So 19th. I know that we're getting on in age, but I still remember it's March 19th. And the other thing, Yeah.
We did a couple of shows with Bobby on the 19th and 20th this last year, and we all got to have St. Joseph's pastry. Joey Fatone Sr. brought us St. Joseph's Sphinge and Zeppeli backstage. Yeah.
The other thing I want to tell him about is I don't know how proud it is that you should be for breaking records after a horse jumps in water. You know, you said you broke all the records in Atlantic City Steel Pier. Well, the horse is the one that was there before you. So if you broke his record, I don't know how proud I would be of that. That would be like being proud of the bear that had the ball on his nose on the Ed Sullivan show when I broke that record. You know?
Just for that, I'm going to put you and Joey on a show together next year, so you guys can have
bring them on. Bring them on. I'll tell you, I kid Joey. Of course, I'm 6'3". He's 1'3" or something like that. But we went into a tuxedo shop. Him and my love, his wife, his former wife Lois, that passed away. Loved her to death, and we went into this place. He had to get something for the tuxedo. He was missing something. And when we walked out, there was a little mannequin. It must have been about 3 feet high with a tuxedo. They had it right by the door. So I grabbed the mannequin's hand. It's, come on, Joe, we're ready. Let's go. He takes a lot of abuse from me, but I take it back. He can do it too. And I'm sure he's going to abuse me now because he tells me, what did you do to yourself? I gained a little weight. And we just did 2 shows over the weekend, back to back. And those things are really rough. And I look like a cadaver right now, but this is, but it is, it's still working, 65, 64, and it is 1958, Little Store, by the way.
58. Yeah, I don't know why I drew a blank.
And you're like a walking Wikipedia. How remember things like that? I don't know.
Bobby's first hit was 59. I know you guys came up together, and it's a lot of years. I'm so glad you got to be there when we honored him and honored you, June of 2019, and we made some great memories that night and the night before at Joey M's. And thanks so much for being a part of this, Vito. I really
thank you for everything. Thank you for what you're doing today too, and keeping us all moving. And one more time, I was just like, Paisan, I love you. God bless you, Bobby.
Thanks, Vito. Thanks so much. It's a beautiful picture of Vito and Bobby. During the pandemic, I was doing these virtual roundtables where I would have artists come on 3 or 4 at a time, and we would all sit around and talk the way we were doing, the way we would do backstage. Because when we're backstage and we're all just hanging out, nobody's talking about themselves. Everybody's talking about other artists. They're talking about the singers they love and who they worked with and so on. And so it's kind of a very special, and it's a very different thing than an interview. And so we were going to do that with Bobby and Tony Orlando. And originally the idea was to bring on Frankie Avalon, and he couldn't be there at the time we were doing it. So I called Bobby and I said, Bobby, who'd you like to have on? And he, without missing a beat, he said, Jay Siegel, bring on Jay Siegel. And so that was, we got to do that with Tony Orlando, Bobby, and Jay. And Jay's agreed to be with us here tonight. There you are. Jay, thanks for coming on. I hear Judy laughing in the background. Thanks for being
here. Huh?
That's your technical.
Always behind me, no matter what.
And you're very lucky that she is.
Yeah,
you're very lucky she is. Hi, Judy. Jay, thanks for being on. Thanks for coming on. Tell us what you remember most about Bobby. Give us something to laugh about.
Well, to be a part of this whole thing is it's an honor for me. And it's funny because I share the same stories as all these other guys that you just had on. We all went through the same thing. We all came up together. And like I said, when we're backstage and we're doing, these multi-act shows, it's the only analogy I could make is it's like a high school reunion. We all grew up together. We all were making music just for the sake of making music. And we all say to each other, do you think we'd still be doing this 50 years? No way. And we all say, no way. I don't know. But it's funny, about Bobby. The first time I think I really met Bobby is right after Bye Bye Birdie. I was recording for RCA Victor, and they also signed Anne Margaret, and we were on a promotion tour. The Tokens were on a promotion tour, when we had the Lion Sleeps Tonight at RCA, and we were booked to do a show with Anne Margaret, and it was a big. It could have been an arena like Madison Square Garden, and I remember doing that show, and Anne Margaret had a big hit record then. You probably remember the name of it. I don't, but I know she had a hit record. And Bobby was there, and that's the first time I really got to get to know him. He came up, before we started in high school, with this kid Neil Sedaka. I don't know if anybody remembers him, but but that's how I started. Bobby even started before we did, But then one thing about Bobby, when he was a kid, his voice was so mature. He sounded like an adult singing when he was a kid. He had that control. He had that tone. He never sounded like a kid singer, He just sounded like he sounded like he's been doing it. Well, he probably was his whole life. And, he was, it's funny. I just spoke to Bobby about a week ago. He called me up from the hospital. I think he was in rehab. And he said, I just had a mini stroke. And he sounded like he just had a headache,
Right.
My voice is good. I'm a little weak on my feet, but I feel okay. And I just wanted to say hi, That was just about a week. He sounded absolutely perfect. All I could say about him, I'll give you a few words: a class act, a polished performer, a consummate professional. And another thing about him, he was real. He was a real guy. He was nothing phony about him at all. He was a great fan. I remember we saw each other. We worked together a couple of years ago on one of the themed cruise ships, and Neil Sedaka was on that ship. And Neil called me on stage, and we did a duet together. It was a great experience. The audience loved it. And after the show, Bobby came up to me and said, "That was the greatest thing I ever saw on the whole of anybody who was on the cruise. You and Neil were the best thing I ever saw." So what I'm saying is, he was a real fan. He was a fan of everybody that he worked with. He loved the music.
He loved the stuff.
He
was always talking about a bass player that he worked with years ago. He was talking about a singer that he went to see. He and Dave would go see Tower of Power whenever they were in town, and he would, watch Garibaldi on the drums and go crazy and, and all that stuff, man. He was a fan of the music. It's funny that you mentioned that.
He was a great fan. And
It's part of his personality.
About you mentioned Dave. Some of the viewers may not know who you're talking about, but that's Dave. Dave was Bobby's drummer in ND for like almost 40 years.
Yeah.
Amazing that they were together that long. And I called, lately, my name for Bobby Rydell. Remember the Lee Major show, The Bionic Man?
Yeah.
He was the bionic. He had none of his own parts.
Uh-huh.
But he worked like he still was like a kid on stage. He loved to be on stage.
He really did.
Performing. He's a great family man. If you saw what his kids wrote about him, especially his son, a beautiful tribute to him. Yeah. He was just a great friend. I know him practically my whole life, and we're all gonna miss him. We're all gonna miss him.
Really are. It leaves a big gap.
Yeah, of course we're gonna miss his talent and his performance, but we're gonna miss him as a friend. And I know he was your friend, Joe. He was my friend, and everybody that you've had on previously. He loved all of us, and we all loved him. And it's a sad day when he passed.
Shay, thanks for being on, for coming on and talking about him. I know he loved you, and like I said, you were the first name he mentioned when we had to find somebody to come on and share the screen with us. And he really had a tremendous amount of respect for your talent, everything that you accomplished as a singer and a producer, and he really had an immense amount of respect for you. So thanks for coming on and sharing that.
Thank you for telling me that, because I didn't know.
Yeah.
That until you just said that, and I really appreciate it. That meant a lot to me. It did.
Beautiful, Jay. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Thank you. And thanks to technical support in the background. Judy, we appreciate it. There's so many folks waiting to come on, and I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to chat. A young man that's very close to my heart. I think he's one of the most talented singers out there right now. He got to spend quite a bit of time with Bobby over the course of the last year or so, because they did five shows together, all over the country, in Ohio and in West Virginia and all over. And Bobby thought highly enough of him to have him as a guest in his home, hosted him with his wife, Linda. And it was really very, very special that he had the chance to do that. And I've asked him to come on and just take a moment or two to talk about what Bobby meant to him, and that's Chris Ruggiero.
Hi, Joe.
How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you?
Good. I just want you to share whatever's on your mind. I know it's it was kind of rough news for you because you'd become so close with Bobby over the course of the last year and the last few months, especially. He thought the world of you, and every time he would get on the phone with me, the first thing out of his mouth was, "How's Chris?" He listened to your album driving back and forth to the lake house, and he was always asking me questions about the arrangements and stuff. So you knew he really had listened, and he really cared about you.
Well, I know I'm not supposed to have favorites, but Bobby Rydell always was and always will be my favorite of all time. And I'm so glad that I got to spend the time with him that I did. When I was 19 or 20 years old, I met him for the first time ever at a show we did in Rahway, New Jersey. And now Bobby, he didn't know me from a hole in the wall. We had never met, but he was so nice to me. He treated me like he knew me his whole life. And every time after that, we got to know each other more and more and more. And geez, the stories that Bobby told me are some of the greatest stories ever. And I wish that I could repeat all the stories on air. But there's certainly stories that I'll never forget till the day I die. And, he just represents the best of the 50s and 60s. He always went on stage with such class, and he so cared about the audience, the music, and just doing what he was doing. And he was really the best at it. And like I said, I'm so happy that I spent so much time with him. And I guess one of the funniest things that he used to say was, Bobby loved to tell stories, and everybody knows that. And I would sit down and listen to him tell the stories for hours because I totally loved that.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever he would tell a story, at the end of the story, we'd say, "Well, Bobby, what happened to that guy?" And Bobby would say, "Well, he took a cab, or he went to the movies." And we didn't know what that meant. But finally we asked, "What does that mean?" And he said, "Well, that means he died. He took a cab. He went to the movies." So whenever we were talking about somebody, at the end, it was always, "Oh, he took a cab, or he went to the movies, or he went to get ice cream." and that's how we knew it. I guess that's one of the cleanest things that I could say that Bobby said.
Yeah. He loved Guy Marks, the comedian Guy Marks. And he would send clips that he would find online of Guy Marks, and that was the Guy Marks thing. He said whenever you'd ask Guy, "Hey, what happened to Frankie?" "Oh yeah, no, Frankie took a cab," and that was, you had to try to figure out that meant Frankie passed away. So that was a hysterical. I've got probably 20 text messages where he references that, and it was hysterical. You remember the night after the East Coast Music Hall of Fame fundraiser in November? He comes out, we do a show at Harrah's, we go to Martirano's afterwards, and he's in a suite which is down at the end of the hall in Harrah's, and I'm pushing the wheelchair, and Chris has Linda, Bobby's wife, on his arm, and the hallway is so long, and there's these double doors at the end, and that's his suite. And as I'm pushing him down the hallway in the wheelchair, Bobby's going, "Red Rom, Red Rom, Red Rom." You got video of that somewhere.
I do. I was just watching it the other day, and I was watching and listening to whatever I had of him that I recorded, because sometimes I would stick the recorder under the table so I could just, hear the stories that he would tell in case I forgot.
I got to say, this is not the way to do this, but there was no way to load it up into StreamYard. But I've got a couple of voice memos that he sent me because we talked about Guy Marks. And in memory of Bobby, if you please go look on my Facebook page or just search YouTube and look at Guy Marks doing The Fly. That was one of Bobby's favorite things of all time. And he loved, Guy Marks was an Italian comedian from Philly, and he would do Volare as the Italian Indian. I mean, it was such funny stuff, but Bobby loved him. And he had a song called "Loving You Has Made Me Bananas." And I told Bobby I'd never heard it before. So one night he decided to sing it into his phone and send it. I don't know how this will come out because I could not get it loaded into the software, but dig this.
Oh, your red scarf matches your eyes. Clothes cover before striking. Your father has the shit feather blues. Loving you has made me bananas.
And that was just one of the many gifts. Then a few minutes later, another text.
The bridge of Your red scarf matches your eyes. Oh, we went to the restaurant and you cut your finger. I asked the waiter for iodine, but I dined alone.
And that to me, that sums him up. I love it.
Yeah, and one of the funniest things is when, we could be talking to Bobby and all of a sudden he would just start singing stuff like that out of nowhere. I mean, not even like it had anything to do with the conversation.
And when he wanted you to hear something,
Oh, yeah.
Google Bobby Rydell and then the name of the tune. So here was Bobby at dinner saying his own name into the phone to search, which, man, and you're really lucky because you got to spend a lot of good time with him the last year or so.
Yeah,
and he really loves you, man.
And even when we showed him my album, and before we even released it, one of the songs won, and he thought we should change the drums with the ding 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 and ding ding ding. And then next week we went and we changed the drum part on it.
Yeah,
so
we did, and I sent him video of it. And
so I have to thank Bobby for that, and
Chris
being my idol.
Chris, man, thanks a lot for coming on. I really appreciate it. Speaking of Bobby playing drums, Anthony, if you've got, we've got a couple people waiting. I don't want to keep them waiting much longer, but I think this is worth it to take a minute. I did a show with Bobby about a year ago, and he wanted a specific rhythm on Mac the Knife. And he asked the drummer if he wouldn't mind leaving the throne for a minute. And Bobby took over the drum kit. Anthony, if you can get that up for a couple of seconds, even if we could just see 30 seconds of it or so, that video clip is absolutely killer. But Bobby had a drum kit down in the basement. He would go sit down there. It's going to take us a couple of minutes to get the video up, so I'll bring on another guest in the meantime. And that is another gentleman that got to spend a lot of time with Bobby because he hosts so many shows in the Northeast and performs on them as the lead singer of the classics. And that is Emil Stucchio. Emil, thanks for being on. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I tell you the truth, that I'm getting such a kick out of all these stories. The one that Vito told was funny. I mean, it sounded like something out of The Sopranos. The guy came with the meat cut up. Hey,
any brajol?
And Bobby wanted brajol. That's funny. I tell you the truth, Joey. I go back quite a while with Bobby, but some of the intimate stories that I have with Bobby are with you. In other words, like you had us for dinner, when after a show of yours, you'd had a lot of the acts there. And then, of course, you had Bobby there. And like Chris said, I mean, he would go on and on with stories and they were funny. And it was, you put us all together in that atmosphere. And I got closer to Bobby. Like Vito said, it wasn't just about his talent, and Jay said it too. He was a good human being. He was a great human being. And the last time we were together, you, Bobby, and myself was in Harrah's. And I don't know if you remember this. There was a lady she was having a hard time in life.
She wasn't doing well. I remember.
Yeah. And I said, Joey, I don't want to be a pain in the neck. I know Bobby's not feeling good. I said, do you think I could get him to call her? And you said, well, let's try. So Bobby said, what, are you kidding? Of course. So he got this lady on the phone. She called the next day to Johnny Gambale, one of the original guys in the classics. And but Johnny told me, he says, he didn't make her day. He made her life. It was such a wonderful experience. And something, that's the kind of guy he was for me. I really got it. And like Chris said, and everybody else said, the stories that this guy told are unbelievable. Hey, I see you got Teresa up there. Teresa, after the girl's a great singer. After she did any of the shows, he would go over to her and say, wow, you knocked it out of the park. You sing great. And that goes a long way with somebody like me, somebody like Teresa, and somebody like Al, of course.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. I thank you for sharing that. And I know he loved it when you would introduce him, and he loved seeing you backstage. And we got to have quite a few good times together the last few years. So,
yeah. And I
Thank
thank you, Joe. I really do.
It's my pleasure.
I love the heck out of my time with Bobby, but like I said, you were responsible for a lot of the times that we worked together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Joey. Take care of yourself.
I'll see you soon. Thank you. Beautiful picture. That was from November. It's just a few months ago. It seems like a couple of days ago, really, but that's a few months ago at Harrah's. And speaking of Harrah's, we'll be back there, of course, on June 7th. I don't want to do a commercial right now. But when we did our East Coast Music Hall of Fame gala in June of 2019, we had to find somebody, and it wasn't easy to find somebody that was really worthy of presenting Bobby with his Lifetime Achievement Award. And we did find the perfect person in Dennis Tufano. Dennis was the original lead singer of the Buckinghams, had a ton of hit records, but when he does his own show, he always does a tribute to Bobby Darin. And Dennis, like Bobby, really feels a strong connection to that kind of bygone era, so to speak, of when entertainers could really entertain without the trickery and the and the gimmicks and so on. It was just raw talent. Dennis, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you, Joe. I'm listening to everybody else's stories. It's like the man was a very thick book. When I first met him in Florida, I was not working that night, so you introduced me to him. I went into his dressing room, and he was very, very, very friendly. Very, oh, come on in, and I said, look, I'm a big fan, big fan of yours. And he said, well, and there was a guy sitting on the couch with a cane, and he said, you know who this is? This is Dennis Tufano. He sang that song Susan. And the guy who started singing Susan, and I found out later that this guy used to be Frank Sinatra's security guard, but and I was like shocked that he knew my songs, and we talked about all that kind of stuff. But I first saw him on Dick Clark's show, the concert show. Not American Bandstand, with the Beech Nut Spearmint Gum thing like this. Everybody clapped like that. And I thought that he was, and this was said before too, I think Jay said this, he had stage presence, and he was probably 16 when he did that show. And Bobby Darin was on the same show. So I was like double treated because I saw Bobby in the bathtub scrubbing his back singing Splish Splash. And I thought, well, that's the guy I want to be. I want to be the guy scrubbing his back. No pretense there. And then Bobby Rydell comes on, and I go, that's it. I got to buy 5 of those high boy collar shirts, and I wanted to be Bobby Rydell. I mean, I worked my hair and everything. I did a lot of stuff with that. But then when we did the East Coast Hall of Fame show, and I was honored to sing Volare, his version of Volare, and I was very excited to do that
with his charts.
With his charts, yes, yeah, and it was like
he was happy to give him up too for you singing it. He was happy to give his charts.
Well, later when we were taking pictures, he put his arm around me and he kind of leaned in and said, "Thanks for singing my song," and I was like, that made my night. You know, because it's like he was his eyes and his smile were all connected, and he was so and funny. He's a very funny man. He's and I just it was such a treat to be around him for that day, and yeah, I was pretty jazzed, and he's wild one, geez.
That night in Florida that you met him, which is that picture we put up that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
When I invited you to the show, I mentioned to Bobby, Dennis Tufano, and I was about to continue with your credentials and the songs and the Buckingham and all that. And he right away knew who you were. It was, I like Dennis. Yeah. He says, oh, those are good records. He loved all that stuff. We loved Horn, first of all.
The first time I ever spoke with him, was there's a doo-wop priest, Father Jim Drucker, who always came to a show that I was in New Jersey and gave me a blessing and said a prayer for me and stuff. And I was pretty shocked. My old altar boy stuff came out. I was like ready to genuflect. But he called me and he said, look, I'm going to dinner with Bobby. and he's a fan of yours, and I want you to call me in about a half hour after we stop chewing, so we're not eating dinner. And I said, great, I'll do that. So I call, and Bobby picked up the phone.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I found out that he was a fan, and I found out that he knew who I was, and we talked for about 15 minutes, and I said, you better get back to your food, but he was so sweet on the phone. It was like I knew him forever. Really a real person,
He was really fond of you too, and I'm
Oh,
glad
he
that
was
you
sweet.
got to see him that night. I'm glad you got to do the East Coast
Oh,
Music
God,
Hall of
yeah.
Fame presentation to him, because not only singing the song, but also presenting him with the award and talking
Yeah,
about life,
yeah.
how much he meant, and bridging that gap from the days of Darren and guys like Bobby and guys like you who really care about the show.
There he is.
The stories, man, on stage and off, we're gonna miss all of that. We're
Oh
gonna miss
yeah, and I wish I could have spent more time with him.
Yeah.
Really, and I think Jay said this too. His voice was already there. It was so mature.
As a kid, yeah.
And it was like, whoa, listen to this guy, and he had so much joy when he was singing, and he moved great. Yeah, I definitely based a lot of my my performance moves on what he did, but I never did them as well.
Mhm.
But so I only sneak them in once in a while.
Dennis, thanks a million for coming on. I really
Thank you, Joe.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Can't wait to see you. I know we're doing some shows together over the summer in
Coming
Illinois
up
and
soon.
Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really exciting. So I'm looking forward to seeing you again in person, man. Stuff like this reminds us how much we have to treasure every minute we have together.
Exactly.
Guys
Exactly.
like me aren't getting any younger.
No. Well, no, we're not.
Dennis, I love you. I love you so much. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, man. Be
Thank you.
well.
And speaking of guys from Chicago, I have a gentleman in the wings, so to speak, who is a Chicago legend. He is the guy that put the city of St. Charles, Illinois on the map and so much more. He is the chairman of one of the largest Italian-American organizations in the country, done a tremendous amount of advocacy work with the NIAF, and is a real champion of the arts. Just opened also the Des Plaines Theater, so now it's not only St. Charles, Illinois. He is a concert promoter and producer and so much more. And guys like him who stick their neck out night after night, of course, have a very special place in my heart. We all need to be committed. At some point, we'll have adjoining rocking chairs in a home somewhere. But for now, he's out there roaming the streets and doing the good work that he does. And he's spent a lot of time with Bobby Rydell as well. And he's got some great backstage stories too. From the Arcada Theater, Ron Onesti. Thanks, Ron.
Hey, buddy. Hey, brother Joe. It's so good to talk to you. It's bittersweet because I always love talking to you. Unfortunately, we're talking about this subject matter, but fortunately, we're talking about the subject matter of Bobby Rydell. Dennis just made a mention of the Rydell shirts that Bobby used to have. So my dad was a tailor. He's passed, but this is a Bobby the Rydell collar that my dad would make. We would call it the Rydell collar. Just a wonderful guy, and there's not a whole lot that I can say that hasn't been said already about Bobby. Just what a spectacular guy. He was just by our place in St. Charles in September. It's really funny because we all know some of his physical history where it's a little bit challenging. He had that double organ transplant, and he was really he went through a lot, as we all know. And then I would walk backstage into the dressing rooms, and it was, our fireproof, no smoke situation. And his dressing room is full of smoke. I'm like, Bobby, how could you possibly, I'm gonna do that? He goes, hey man, I quit drinking. What else you want from me? I'm like, all right, I'll give you that, Bobby. So, but the thing I would say about him, a little bit different than his music. Of course, we love this music, but he was such a neighborhood guy. He would come in and he would just, it would just feel like East Coast in our Chicago area there. But we have areas. Just a wonderful guy with regards to being like one of us, would talk our same language, the same inflections, F this guy and F that guy, and I'll talk about some stories about being on the road. I loved his Italianism. People don't even realize just how Italian he was, how he really brought that to the stage and his shows. And he would talk about his mom so much because he, the last show, matter of fact, he was late to go on stage because I like to make the entertainers dinner, and he was eating my meatballs. And he goes, "Holy cow, I forgot how good these were." I said, "Bobby, we start in 3 minutes." He goes, "They can wait." And he shoved another couple in his mouth because that's the kind of stuff he was into. But I tell you, he was just so Italian American, loved his heritage, loved his culture. He would talk about his mom so much. That was this thing that we would talk a lot about. You know, a lot of guys have certain stories like that, like Chris was saying earlier, and they have certain stories that would resonate. For some reason, even the night that Avalon and him and myself were out to dinner, we're talking about our moms. And he would always have a special look in his eye, the way he would talk about his mom, like probably most of us do. But he would always be very proud of her, and the fact that he wasn't going to do Volare. She was such a Dean Martin fan. She loved Volare, and he just threw it on a record just to honor her. And thank God that he did that. So he, as you all know, he does credit his mom with really kicking his career into pants in the high gear. But we're definitely going to miss him here in Chicago. He was by us every year, if not twice a year, in some incarnation. But what a guy Bobby Rydell was, man.
I want you to corroborate this for me, please, because the hang was important to him, was it not?
Very, it's just like Avalon too. A couple of those guys, like, they spend, we talk about, we advance the show and all that stuff. What time you getting? We'll pick you up. We're going to eat this and that. But, with those Italian neighborhood guys, a big part was, okay, but what are we doing after the show?
Where are we
going?
What's the hotel? And the hotel was not, he didn't want to know the hotel because he wanted to make sure it was a nice place or because he needed a certain level of all that. We knew that. We weren't going to put him in a, in a motel or something, right? We were going to put him in a nice place, but he wanted to know where it was because he wanted to know what time the restaurant and lounge closed in the hotel. And the reason was because you and whoever you brought were going to be his guests for the night.
Absolutely.
And they were going to be entertained royally and whoever it was, if they were with you, they were okay by him. Right?
That's how it was.
Not exclusionary or elitist at all about the hang. If you said somebody was cool, were cool and they were in.
No, you're right. Again, that's the neighborhood guy aspect of him and a couple of those other guys. The neighborhood, the after show hang. I mean, sometimes you're talking hours, and these guys, are a couple of years older than I and you and other people. I mean, they're obviously up there, but they, they would party till the wee hours of the morning and they knew that they had to be the center of attention. They weren't going to be some fly on the wall, rather, while we all talked, and they had to tell the stories. And I think that's what I'm going to miss most about it was after show hang, because the people that came back were not only my friends, but also his friends and people that we didn't know. But at the end of the night, it was like New Year's Eve. By the end of the night, we're all like staying in touch. We're all saying, "I love you, man." And he gave everybody a hug. Everybody a sincere hug.
And
gonna miss
Dennis
that smile.
mentioned coming into his dressing room, and there was a guy sitting on the couch who was Sinatra's head of security. He's talking about Merrill Kellum. Merrill and I are having bagels tomorrow morning down here in Florida. With Chris Ruggiero, we're going to get to see each other again and share our Rydell stories. But guys like Merrill and those guys that Bobby was friends with these guys for decades. And he had lifelong friends like Jim Marlowe would be backstage and so on and down here in Florida. And wherever you were, there were people that were in Bobby's circle that were friends for years, and they were part of the deal. And it was really beautiful. And Dave,
don't forget, he was he was like the Chris Ruggiero of his time, because he was a young guy. He was talented. He was out there, and the guys that or the next generation up all took him under his wing, and they all loved him, like the chairman of the board, like all the other guys. So he really got the respect of the other generation, and that stayed with him.
Well, I think Chris picked up a lot from Bobby, but a big part of it is that, first of all, the love of everybody who comes to the show, they're like family to you. And whether it was 10 people waiting or 100 people waiting, whatever it was, Bobby would take everybody's hand and look them in the eye and make sure they got a picture and whatever else they wanted. And it's really kind of something that unfortunately is part of a bygone era. Charlie Pappas, who's a friend of ours, had a show in Wheeling, West Virginia a couple of months ago. And he does a little after party at the hotel where they have where they house all the artists. And I called him the day after the show. I couldn't be there. I had him the night before in Ohio. I said, how did everything go? Great. I said, did Bobby come, to the after party? Because it was going to be a big shindig. It wasn't just a little intimate thing the way Bobby usually would like it. It was 100 people after the show in the ballroom at the hotel. And he says, did he come? He closed the place 10 to 4 in the morning.
That's him.
He was hanging out and he was
That was
taking
him.
pictures. Everybody was there. And there's Dave, his drummer behind him. And there's some other, Jimmy Ross from the Jaggers was there. And Bobby and Jimmy had made a record together years ago. And they were reminiscing about that. And some of the Skyliners were there, the new guys in the Skyliners. And Bobby loved them and loved the way they were carrying the Jimmy Beaumont thing forward. And so, he was a real special guy. And thanks for coming and sharing your stories about him.
Joe, there's one other little thing too that happened. We're at the Milwaukee Italian Fest. I was putting on some entertainers there one day, and I'll never forget this moment. I happened to be on the phone with Bobby when he got the news that he lost his father, and that was a special moment because he wept a little bit. He goes, he said a couple of expletives, but he actually stayed on the phone with me for a few minutes and talking about his dad and wept a little bit. And we shared that. We talked about that also every time he'd come by us. And we did we always had a little salute, even though he didn't have any liquor, but we did a salute to his dad, a little toast up there to his dad. His mom we talked about, but we toasted to his dad. So hopefully he's up there with both of them, man, and looking down on us.
Well, thanks for everything you do in there. I know you got some great shows coming up. I know you have Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis with Tony Orlando coming up.
That's going to be a big show. Yeah, really excited about that one.
That is great. And you and Tony, I'm sure, will share some great Rydell stories when you're together.
Absolutely. What a good guy he is.
Look forward to seeing you again, Ron. Thanks a million.
Brother Joey, it's great to hear from you, man. I look forward to seeing you soon down south.
Thank you. Beautiful. I have a message to share from a gentleman who couldn't be with us, and that is, of course, Charlie Gracie. Charlie and Bobby go back to the very beginning. From Charlie Gracie tonight, good evening, Joe, and all your very special Facebook guests honoring the memory of our dear and loving friend, Bobby Rydell. I deeply regret that I could not join you online tonight, but it's a privilege to be able to share a few thoughts and sentiments about Bobby Rydell. First and foremost, my wife, Joan, and I send our deepest sympathy and special prayers to his devoted wife, Linda, and his extended family and his devoted fan base who are deeply saddened. Bobby and I worked together a bunch of times through the years, and most recently for the East Coast Music Hall of Fame in Atlantic City back in November. Despite recent health issues, Bobby always went out there and gave his fans 100%. That's how much he loved and appreciated them. Joan and I were amazed and inspired by his courage. Rarely, if ever, did he ever complain. This is a great loss to our musical family, and it is family. We often shared conversation about the humble beginnings of growing up in South Philadelphia and our Italian heritage, something we took great pride in and he never, ever forgot. We were also proud of the fact that our early hits launched the Cameo Parkway record label, which saw our hometown of Philadelphia rise to the very top of the recording industry. Those old songs still resonate today, bringing great joy and happiness to so many. Bobby was committed to his calling and gave everything he had. That's what a great entertainer does and why he was truly loved. May God bless and keep his soul. We will surely miss Bobby until we meet again. Much love, Charlie and Joan Gracie. Thanks so much, Charlie, from all of us at the East Coast Music Hall of Fame for being with us. I mentioned earlier that we had a little video of Bobby playing drums just a few months ago. This was actually last year. Dave, his drummer of Faithful Friend for over 40 years, was not well and couldn't make the show. So we had my drummer, Jeff Serezny, filling in from the pop rock and doo-wop band that we bring all over the country because we think there's some of the finest musicians out there. And Jeff is a great rock and roll drummer. And Bobby wanted to show him how to swing a little bit on Mac the Knife. And so he asked Jeff if he wouldn't mind him getting behind his drum kit. And he did. And Anthony, if we've got that video, I'd love to be able to share that with some of the folks here on the broadcast, if it's possible. If not, of course, we'll put it up at a later time. But I think So that's Bobby, and we'll always remember him with that big smile on his face. Thanks so much to all of you who tuned in tonight. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks to all the artists who came on. Hope the next time we see each other, it's for a more happy occasion. But I think that Bobby is smiling down, knowing that he is remembered fondly. I am so incredibly pleased that he trusted me to present him on stage all over the country. And I've got so many great voicemails and text messages and emails that I saved over the years. He was a stickler for how the band was going to sound. He wanted everything perfect. He cared so very much about it. And although it could sometimes be frustrating to those of us who were concert promoters to make sure that everything was perfect, he drove us all to be better. And I think that all of the entertainers who knew him are driven somewhat by his commitment to perfection and how great he wanted it to be. His stuff was rehearsed. Everything he said on stage was vetted and well thought out before he got out there. There was no winging it with Bobby Rydell. He is a link to a bygone era. I hope that some of the entertainers whose lives he's touched carry on that incredible work ethic. And I hope that, again, this serves as a reminder not to turn this into a commercial. This is totally not for profit in any way for any of us that are involved, but we would love to see all of you come together on June 6th and 7th of 2022 at Harrah's in Atlantic City. We will be honoring Bobby that night in a very special way, I can tell you that. And we are going to be honoring some of the artists while they are still with us. Our East Coast heroes are somewhat different from the rest of the country. And so it's why the founder of this organization, Tommy Patillo, felt it important that we have an East Coast Music Hall of Fame. When I first heard it, I thought it was a terrible idea. To me, Hall of Fames are a way to frustrate a lot of people with the people who are not inducted or not honored. And I was not totally sold on the idea until June of 2019, when I was asked to produce the event, the gala. And I saw people like Bobby, Connie Francis, Tony Orlando, Ronnie Spector, Joey D, Lou Christie, all come together. And I watched how much it meant to them. Forget about who was honored and who got a plaque and who got an award. For them to be able to come together was enough. It's a very, very important work that we do. I always say I don't take myself very seriously at all, but I take the work that I do very seriously, and producing this year's event will be no different. We need to honor folks like Bobby while they're still here on this planet and give them the memories, whether they feel they need the validation or not. That validation is meaningful and significant. And I think it's something that all of us will carry with us, those of us that were there back in June of 2019. And so I'd love to see you all in June of 2022. I promise you, we are going to do everything we can to make it even better than it was, and to continue to honor our heroes like Bobby and so many others that we've mentioned. So thank you all very so much. If you go to ecmhof.org, you can get more information on the East Coast Music Hall of Fame, and you'll see on our Facebook page some of the great pictures of Bobby Rydell and so many other beautiful artists that were with us that night in 2019. Hope to see you again in June. Thank you very, very much once again, all the artists that came on tonight. Thanks for being with us.